Good evening, everyone. This is the Human Relations Commission meeting for our pre-meeting. And we are inviting you to participate on Zoom and in public. Call the meeting to order. The roll call,
All right, roll call, Mayor Angie Sortie,
Present.
Commissioner Bernard,
correct, here.
Commissioner Ramos, I'll be here in a moment. Commissioner Boone, Commissioner Harvat, Commissioner Banky,
Present.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Present.
All right,
The commissioners that are absent is Commissioner,
Boone, Harvat, and that's it.
yes, and Commissioner Harvet. We would like to excuse her absence.
I move that we excuse Commissioner Harvat's absence.
I second the
We
motion.
actually vote in the
Oh.
7 o'clock meeting, so it's just to acknowledge that we will excuse her absence in that meeting. All right, our old business, we'd like to get started on the subcommittee update on bylaws and the discussion and the final information that we would like to give. At this time, I'll turn it over to our vice chair, who is over the sub update for the bylaws. Welcome, Commissioner Boone.
Hello. Now, you'll see the version of the bylaws in front of you, the same one that I sent out in an email and sent out an email before that, before I cleaned it up again. So you've seen this document 2.5, 3 times. And this is what I'm proposing with our revolving door of committee members. There is more that could be done, but I'm pretty happy with what you have in front of you. It has been the culmination of over 6 months. And I think this version is significantly better than what we had to begin with. And I think it's ready to be approved and then sent to the city commission to have them take a look at it and tell us it's all fine or, oh, they have issues. And there are the various changes from the previous versions that we started with, including removing the term authority and putting in the commission, removing things like director and putting in commissioner, and various things to that degree, including other grammatical mistakes like reside instead of preside, and some titles in here that just don't exist. There's some formalizing of dates in here that had been discussed at various times. There was some discussion, some wording. Some of it has been changed a few times, such as the teleconference thing that went through like 6 different drafts. Public comment being added, Secretary Pro Tem being added, some slight changes of duties so that we know what we're doing with new members and who to contact, etc. As well as changing some of the basic wording of even the official ones. So said proposed bylaws and had no date of being put together. So if these are going to be the official ones, at least until they're adjusted again, have bylaws and have tentatively this date, which is one that we've been shooting for all year. And you'll find some other slight changes as well, such as there's certain committees that just don't exist being adjusted. Like it at one point it says you need like 4 different committee chairs. We don't have a need for that, so that was taken out. There was some clarification wording and some consistencies made, some grammatical changes as well. And I think it's perfect now, but the culmination of over 6 months, I think this is good to move forward. And after we get some feedback from the city, we'll also have a better idea of what might be needs to still be adjusted or what's all good. So So I have for you. I could say a lot more about it, but I'm open to some comments.
Commissioner Bernard, you made the comments that were emailed in the pink. Was that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I do like the addition under section 5. So Article 4, Section 5, the clarity where it just says the treasurer will submit the yearly budget. Adding that, I think just clarifies that component.
Mhm.
And then I think we discussed last time the issue of election of officers, of whether it's a 1-year term or a 2-year term.
When we have 3-year terms, I still stand by. I think it only makes sense for out of those 3 years, we'd have 3 elections of officers rather than have some sort of weird half term, because not always do people stay on, and we can't really expect someone to already sign up for a second term before they're done with their first term. So I stand by. I think the 1 year is better, and it does allow for greater flexibility in the commission.
The problem that I saw with the fact that we are having an election every year is that the mayor doesn't change. The mayor is in 2 years. The mayor selects our positions. And I was saying if we could coincide with the election of the mayor, the 2 years that that person is in office, then it would be better, because then we're serving 2 mayors in one section.
You'd be serving 1.5 mayors because
Well, what I'm saying.
your term
what
would
my
technically turn out.
suggestion, the reasoning behind my suggestion is to coincide with the election of 2-year terms. We don't have to, but it takes a longer time to learn how to do this job. As chairperson, I've been longer than 2 years. And part of that time was during the pandemic. So a lot of things change when you change officers as fast, because it's not just the chair that you're changing, it's all the officers are changing. So that's my recommendation for the 2-year.
I also point out, we are having trouble filling the secretary pro tem, and that's only for 1 year. If someone to sign up for 2 years, it's going to be even harder to convince them to. And again, we're left with, what if they decide to only stay on the commission for 1 term, so 1 3-year term? Then we have to fill that for the rest of that term. I really don't think it's a good idea.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, but I was at the planning commission just last time, and they do theirs every year as well for chair and vice chair, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, and I know the DDA does, but I'm not on the planning commission, but I go to other meetings, and they just talked about it at the last meeting. So I do know that they run every year, and it's really for the same reason, like maybe something comes up and somebody either A, doesn't want to do it, or somebody else wants to step into that role, or whatever it might be. But it kind of tends to be that exact same way, in at least in some of those other, in almost all of the other commissions that exist, just as a reference point, to take into consideration. And I mean, I will say, if like I'm a new person on a commission, a committee, a board, it doesn't matter what I'm on, I don't really want to take on a heavy role within the first year. I really want to get my feet wet. I really want to see what it's like. I want to get to know what's happening much better before I ever make that commitment. And that is why also I think a year is a good thought, because then they get a year to see what it's like, and then maybe say, yes, I want to throw my hat into the ring. I want to be considered for this. But, nobody, like, exactly why we would have done that to you, Steve, just because, you were so new. Like, that's just a hard position. You want to see how it works, and you want to get used to the commission and the committee. And, it doesn't mean somebody's not going to stay in that position for a long time. That's what's happened on the planning commission and on the DDA, just so you are fully aware. They've been there way longer than a year, most of those positions, but at least it gives that opportunity if something comes up, a family circumstance, I don't know, it could be anything where they just really don't want to do that position anymore. I don't want to scare people away. And I do think we are having a hard time. And I'm not saying that's because it's HRC, that's on all our commissions. We have open spots right now. We have one on the planning commission where DDA is filled again, but we did have some on there. We have open spots on other ones as well. So it is something that people aren't necessarily just jumping for excitement to be joining commissions and boards and wanting to jump into that. And so I don't want to scare people away either. And not that they would have to run for an officer, like to be one of the officers of that commission, but I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that.
Okay, the purpose of us having our bylaws, we don't have to be exactly like any other organization in the city. However, some of the things we do in our bylaws have to coincide
Mhm.
with the city so that we would be in balance with one another. But learning even the role of the secretary pro tem, any of the positions, if we keep changing every year and you have the option to do those changes, but even if you do 2 years for each of the positions and hold people accountable, they have 3 years that we're going to be serving. Each term is 3 years. So 2 years is not too much to ask. And if something happens and someone cannot serve, which is where we are right now, we just fill those positions until the next term is finalized. That means that they will serve out the term of the person that walked away or was not able to serve, and then we would vote again. It isn't that difficult, but however, when you're talking about working any position in any office, I believe that you need to have more than a short term. And if you're always changing, if people want to have the position, we can just work that out. But I think 2 years is going to coincide with the mayor. The mayor is the one that we are serving under, and that 2-year period gives us that balance with that mayor. If not, we have to serve under both mayors, 2 mayors sometimes. So that was my rationale, and we don't have to do it. But always remember this, regardless of what we put in the bylaws, we can change it at any meeting. If we have to make an adjustment, we can change it at any meeting. All we have to do is put a resolution together or put a vote together and vote on whatever changes is necessary.
I just want to clarify, since I've been working on these bylaws for months, that no, it cannot be changed in one meeting. It would have to be changed in 2 meetings. There has to be a reading at the meeting prior, kind of like why I gave you one last time and why I'm submitting the same thing I did last time. And then there has to be the meeting where it is done, but there has to be that 1 month of it being seen by the commission beforehand.
I am
That's
not
also why I
disagreeing with
kept
you.
you
I'm
updated so
agreeing
long.
with
So
you.
I am just making the clarification of what the actual process is, since that is what I've been following. And on the term of the 1-year terms, an annual meeting's not that hard. It takes 30 minutes, an hour. I don't mind having an annual meeting and deciding officers then. Again, it takes maybe an hour. We already give up 1 meeting in December a year. Does it matter if we give up 1 more partial meeting? I don't think it does. Like our last annual meeting, I think only took around half an hour, 40 minutes. So I think regular annual meetings aren't a problem by any means, and thusly officer selection isn't a problem by any means on a yearly cycle.
I don't think I was talking about the meetings. I was talking about the election of officers during the 2-year period.
And that's what I was referring.
That's what I'm referring to.
That is also
And
what I'm
when
referring
we
to.
make changes, the only thing I was saying about changes is that you can recommend a change at any meeting. That doesn't mean that we vote at that time.
A recommendation is different than a resolution. Since I have to write this down, that is part of why I'm also being particular about this.
I would say from my experience with all the boards and commissions that I've served on, both public and private, of the countless number of them, all but one board has been 1-year terms. So I'm not scared off by a 1-year term. The other piece that I guess would be of concern to me is if we're talking about mayoral appointments, a mayoral appointment, this annual meeting takes place in June
Mhm.
under one mayor, but yet there would be an election and a new mayor potentially, or a replacement of a mayor or the same mayor in November. So that doesn't necessarily hold weight because the one mayor that appointed us to serve when we're elected in June maybe isn't the mayor in November, so that's not always a consistent basis with this June annual meeting that we have. I support 1 year.
You're still in charge of the discussion. Is there any more discussion?
That's what I was waiting to hear. I didn't want to just jump in because there's a lot here to look at. I
There's
want to
a-
give
there's a
people
lot.
time to look at the next page or something. But yes, if anyone has any more opinions that they would like heard on that particular topic, or we can move on to a different part of the bylaws. Again, I did put in quite a bit of language, and I of course want to make mention it wasn't just me on all of this. Yes, I have led the effort. I started the committee, yay me or whatever. But also it has been thanks to the great work of people like Ashley Cavazos Frank during her time up here. Thanks to Banky, thanks to Lindsay, and thanks to Lady Bernard. We've all managed to pull us together again. I have heard some changes, which clarifying language, which is no problem to put in, and I think still allows us to vote on it at this time. Is there any other parts of the bylaws that would like to go over?
I had a question on page 1. The under the vice chairperson. What was added after the second line? It says, and that is, I guess, section 4. The additional information that you put in was, and when so acting, this is the vice chair, and the description of what will happen, that would automatically be done, because if you're the chairperson, whatever is under the chair would actually automatically be what the vice chair would do if the chair is unavailable.
Yes, but it's
So
meant
it
to.
doesn't say the same thing under the chair. The description of the job, responsibility, the power, when you put the power in there, the subject, all subject to all restrictions of the chairperson, you don't really have the restrictions in under the chairperson. Is what I'm saying, that you really don't have to have because it's automatic.
Yeah, we should be aware of what those are, and yeah, it's clarifying language, but
And then the other one is under the treasurer, and it says where the treasurer assists in he doesn't have to, he doesn't assist with the city clerk. The the city officers, rather.
It doesn't say he's assisting. It says he's getting assistance from them as appropriate.
He doesn't have to get assistance from them. All that he has to do is report to the city. The financial report is to be submitted from us. So we're submitting it as a group. He just delivers it to the administration.
I don't understand the problem.
The problem is you're saying that the treasurer you added in there
I did
And-
not add that.
and with the assistance of the appropriate city officials.
I did not add that. That was already in it. I did not add most of the language in here. Most of
Okay,
this was
well,
in
it
here
does-
as it was.
What it's saying is, it's not what we do, is what I'm getting at. That part of it, we don't do. We don't do it with the assistance of the city. We submit our budget to the city. And that comes from us. That comes from our commission to the city.
But doesn't the treasurer have to work with Nathan Owen to like go over to make sure things do line up the same, that what Nathan shows we have is what
That
our
is, not-
treasurer shows?
that is not what we've done. If that's what you want us to do, and then this is okay.
Okay,
But that is not something that we've ever done. The only thing that they require is that we come up with a budget. And we have come up with the budget from this commission. We submit it to the city. And then they let us know whether that budget will go forward. We don't do anything with the city treasurer.
okay, because I didn't mean the budget. I meant just the monthly like financial statements, because
We don't have, we just said, they just required us to have the same thing, have recording in our minutes that we talked about the budget. Our budget hasn't changed.
but we have had expenses. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not really talking about budget. I'm
When we
talking
have
about
expenses, we
where,
just reported at the end of the year. So that January 15th budget reporting is the only thing that we do at the city. Other than submit what our budget is on the 15th, what we would like to change, anything we'd like them to do. And so reporting every month doesn't matter. That's why I asked our treasurer, all you have to say when you do the report is that there's no changes. Because it's the same.
But bills are paid during that
Right.
month at times. And I know from my experience on the library board, kind of what Angie's speaking about is that the city finance manager would send over, before the library went independent, would send over all the financial reports for the month. So what the balance was, what the expenditures were, and those were available to the treasurer and are available to our treasurer, I would assume.
It's not,
Each month.
it hasn't been, and they haven't done it that way with us. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't request that it's done that way, but we don't get any reports from the city and they get none from us except in January.
I think it'd be a great idea. I know, I know the DDA is looking at larger amounts coming in and out and fluctuating that, but I know that Brad Maggard, who's the treasurer for the DDA, does get the report from Nathan, the financial manager, checks it against what he had, just to make sure they line up. I think it's a great checks and balances. If that is something that just, every month there's a certain date that can be set up, that it gets sent before the meeting so that the treasurer can say, this is what I have, this is what the city has, this is where we're gonna, maybe it's exactly the same, maybe there's some difference, because that has happened. We've caught several things within the DDA that they had it different than the DDA had. And I just think it's a good checks and balances. And it's good to have that communication, because even, the treasurer, as budget time comes up, if they have any, questions or submitting or whatever it might be, it's just good to have that relationship as well. But I just feel like it's good that it shows we're watching the money that we have and what is happening, coming in and going out. And and that we're having that checks and balance and making sure it does match the city. Cause I know a couple years ago, we didn't even know how much we had in there. I went and found out, and then, we started that communication, but I just think it is good to have that communication, just to make sure that it does match. And that's
Then we
basically why
need
the DDA does it, just to make sure it matches.
Okay, but see, we have a set amount of money. They tell us what our budget is and exactly how much money we have. If we go over that budget, we have to make a recommendation for that. So we have not had that problem in terms of submitting anything to them that was over the budget that they gave us. And they haven't turned over our money from one year to the other, except this last year, because we didn't have anything during the pandemic. But we never had the relationship of going to the city treasurer. It doesn't mean that we can't set it up that way. But at this point, that was my question when this was in there, that there is no city official that we discuss it with. And it wouldn't just be a city official, it would be the city treasurer, or it would be the city administration that we would actually send our recommendations to. And what I did is I sent it to the treasurer and I sent it to the administration. So I sent it to both.
But this is more like, so like we spent money in November. And so just to make sure that what they have for the bottom line for this budget year matches exactly what our treasurer has, like what the commission thinks we have left, just for that, more so than just even submitting the budget. I'm
But that's
talking
what we
outside of that.
submitted. That's what we submitted when we submitted the budget in January. We also submitted with that the expenditures. Anything, and we only had one expenditure for the past year. But see, we're still in the year. When we submit that budget in January, we're still in the year till June, till the end of June. So that's what part of the problem is with the treasurer's job and responsibility, is that nothing moves really unless we do something, but then we have to report in January, but then we still are on the same budget until June. So it is confusing, and it would be helpful to have that assistance, and maybe you can set that up, making sure that we have the connection, that our treasurer will be able to communicate and they can email.
Mhm.
But if your budget doesn't go anywhere and you're not doing anything, you just keep track of your finances. And you do report when you do expend any monies. Yes.
We'll recognize Banky.
I support the current language that's in green.
Any other comments on this?
No.
I do support, going back up to the vice chair, I do support the current language in green staying and striking the language in green under vice chair.
I don't believe we all have that available to us, so would you note
So
the language?
I can email it to you.
The section 5 under the treasurer.
Well, from my knowledge, it was
Section five.
only emailed to 3 of us, so that's why I'm also asking for clarification for the other half here that did not receive the color coded one.
So the area that was in question under the conversation we just had in treasurer, line 2 begins with "and with the assistance of appropriate city officials, an annual financial report covering the financial year." That I support keeping under section 4, vice chair, starting at the end of line 2, all the way at the end, and when so acting shall have the powers and be subject to all restrictions of the chairperson. When not serving as chairperson, the vice chairperson shall perform other duties as needed. Striking that. But again, my sole opinion of the board.
All right. Any other feelings on those 2 sections at this time? All right. Are there any questions about any other of the sections I can go line by line, but are there any specific questions?
The only other thing that I had that was green was under section 5 again was the date, and the commission would actually do it in November for the budget. Is that what we wanted to do it in November?
Since we don't have a December meeting and we need to do it on January 15th, which is almost always before the before the regular Tuesday, I think November is what we settled on. We had to do at the latest so that we could meet that January 15th deadline, unless we want to start having December meetings, which I cannot remember a time that we had December meetings.
The other point under treasurer that Commissioner Bernard added that I feel we should add is again under the treasurer. The last sentence. It just says will, and she added the treasurer will. So I think that would be an important add to start that sentence out. And then submit and then before budget, she had added yearly as well.
All right, noted. Thank you. Is there any other opinions on that that would like to be heard? If not, are there any other sections would like to go over at this time?
I had one more, and that was under reimbursements. That would be the last page. It would be under number 2.
I am not touching that. That was written that way before me. The only thing I changed in that was I took out the authority when it was referring to the commission and put in the commission. I am not comfortable adjusting most of that language without an opinion from the city attorney.
Well, that was what I put at the end of it. Each one of these sections would need the attorney
But
clarification.
I'm not comfortable adjusting any of the language in Article 7 without the attorney's opinion first. Besides what I've already done of changing it from the authority, which we are not, to the commission. I am not comfortable messing with anything else unless we actually have the attorney.
What was your question? Or
I don't think I have a question,
okay.
since we're going to send it to the attorney to look at both of those sections. But my recommendation was to remove that section of it, and it was only for conversation. Because what we have to do is look at what we have in our bylaws that may need to be changed. That was the recommendation that I was giving, that this may need to come out, but it has to go to the attorney. And I had a question mark next to the green. So that's all I had, except for the one report submitted by.
It is not a report. It is a proposed set of bylaws. It is not a report. And what you had written down in the report by excluded Ashley, which is also not correct. Ashley put in just as much effort as numerous others on this board.
Excuse me. I'm not understanding what you say. Commissioner,
Like I said, this is not a report. It should not be reports submitted by. It could at best be proposed bylaws submitted by, but it is not a report.
I have nothing else to say about. Everything else went fine, except the date that we put February 28th that it's submitted for. So we just have to change that date and finish everything. And if we vote it in, then it will be a difference. Do we have to make a recommendation
I
to
believe
submit this over to the city attorney?
during our
city
regular meeting,
administration?
Yes.
before we finalize it and put the date on it. So that's what I was saying about that.
All right.
Is there anything else you want to share with us?
I
Or-
believe that covers all the bylaw stuff unless someone would like to make their voice heard that hasn't yet. But I believe we covered pretty much everything. And I think that closes out this topic until our regular meeting. But if there's any voices that have not been heard, this is of course the time to be heard. Thank you.
Any commissioners? Okay, thank you so much for the report, Commissioner. Section B would be the strategic planning with the city commissioners. We were recommended to have a strategic planning opportunity of training. I have not been able to get anyone to do that at this point. But I do want to say that we could very much have a training without having someone else be strategic planner for us. I will, if you all will allow me to get your suggestions and also to put something together, we could do that in the April meeting because our March pre-meeting is already set for training with Commissioner Binky doing team training.
I was gonna actually suggest something like that. I feel like we have 2 new commissioners now. Things have changed. We've, got a few commissioners that are no longer with us as well. And, I just feel that it would be really great to, before we even proceed any further anyways, in what do the new, but maybe the current, the not new commissioners, that 'cause things have changed, maybe your opinion changed. What do you see the goals of, I know we have a mission statement. I know we have this statement, but what do you see so that we can put the strategic, plan together? But what do you see the HRC, doing for the community? What do you see as goals? And like, maybe everybody comes up with that and comes together. And I really think that kudos to Commissioner Banky for, bringing up about the building a team. I know we're going to talk about it in a minute, but I really think at that point, I feel it's more important and we need to do that and work on building that team and going through that. And then that can maybe clarify in all of our eyes, like, and then having that open dialogue of where do we all see, what do we want to see done with, by the HRC and like, and the goals and that, so that we can then start, working towards that strategic plan altogether. But I think the progress and the right steps to take are definitely with going with team building exercise. And, I think that was a brilliant idea and going and doing that and then moving forward in where do we all see that ourselves, and having that discussion before there's even any other discussion.
I guess I would recommend kind of twofold at our March meeting in terms of team building activities. One kind of the threefold. One, the get to know each other component. Another one of those, another piece is the actual activity team building that also talks about group dynamics and kind of a visual mode that's always helpful. And I try to remind myself of it at times. And then the last piece, which depending on the time, and is always a good component to do with any organization when they start talking about goals, is a SWOT analysis. So what are the strengths, the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that and those are both internal and external, that we as a commission see for the commission, and that becomes a good springboard into goals as to looking at our strengths, but at the same time, what our weaknesses, and then that can help springboard into goals and planning at future meetings too.
I do have a question as far as what this committee has done either before COVID, prior to me, as far as what have they done with or for the city? You know, at the start of this meeting, and excuse me, but this is just my viewpoint. I was listening to every change and decision of these bylaws. And then I heard in the middle there, to submit it to the city commissioners to find out if they approve it or not. I would rather, and this is just me speaking, I would rather see us submit it and metaphorically get spanked on the hands if we did something wrong, rewrite it, knowing that we wrote it correctly for them, submit it again, and we're done. So we can move on and do those things for and with the city. Sorry, I just feel like that was my purpose for wanting to be a part of this. And obviously my facet or my angle behind this HRC is I work for the schools. What can the city and schools do more to strengthen the relationship? You know, it takes a village to raise a child. And those are the things that drive me. I'm sorry, but bylaws don't. I would rather, like I said, submit them, see if the city commissioners approve it, and let's do something.
I think as we move forward, there's the opportunity, the strength that we have from the charter comes in investigating complaints. So that's one aspect, and I think that's an important piece as we move forward with training, that we need to have the training so that if there is a complaint that moves forward, we know about that. Some of the conversation that we could have around that, or maybe some pushback to the city, is we're all working blokes and kind of, you know, just general schmoes. And if someone's bringing a complaint of harassment against the city, you know, if we're investigating it, we're either taking our own personal time or we're not getting paid or things like that. And, you know, it might be in the best interest to have us like led by the city attorney through that process, instead of us just kind of fumbling about. So I think that could be some talk for change, although that's one of our charges. We need like some guidance and leadership, because I know Commissioner Frank talked about some of the struggles that she had during the investigation. But then the other power that we have has been education. So forums and trainings and those sort of things. So how we can bring people together to make that happen, I think is, you know, what we can try to focus on. The problem becomes looking at the room and where that gets filled up. But I also think we learned a lot last Friday with a recent event, and you know, we got 30 people there. So and that was thanks to kind of the combined efforts of 4 community organizations. So how we can work to bring our community groups in to play a role in turnout, I think becomes an important piece too.
Well, let me say that we had 25 to 30 people here for the town hall meeting in January.
Right, yeah,
And so the town hall meetings, we do have more participation.
Mhm.
And now that we're on Zoom, a lot of people, because of their work schedules or whatever, they're part of us in that way. But I just want you all to know, most of you don't know that we've always had missions and goals. We've always had a committee that came together and put together some suggestions for goals, and that was when we first got started in 2018. So we do have our mission, and we also have some goals. And we also had some areas that we were working on with the city attorney. The attorney came and did training around a lot of the things that you are asking about. A lot of questions that you all probably still have. And because you are new, and because you, even some of us that have been here a long time, we slid backwards because we've never really had a full commission. And we've had to fill in positions when positions were made available. I mean, vacant. So there's a lot that we can do. And I do have it in writing, so I could share quite a bit of stuff with you. And I do suggest that we get an attorney. However, we have an attorney that does not live in the city. Am I right?
Yeah, but he's here all the time because he's now the county attorney too.
Well, I didn't.
And one thing that I will tell you, speaking to what Commissioner Bernard's speaking to, is I was not on the Human Relations Commission back when the city attorney went through this and worked with the HRC, but I attended those meetings. I was there. I just wasn't on it at the time. And I thought it really, it was really helpful. And, and honestly, I think that's what I was actually going to suggest, is that, maybe that's the next step, is we bring in John Galuli, our city attorney, and we have that meeting, with him, discussing this with our city attorney. I don't even know, I just don't know how much, he really knows about the HRC. I mean, he knows about us because he was advising back when we had the, when we were doing the investigation. He was involved with that. But I just think it'd be really good for him to come in and meet all of us and meet with us and talk through, and just talk through that as we look ahead and as we are goal setting. And it's good to have that relationship and to get that built. That, because that hasn't been, for a while he was just contracted. He wasn't here that often. And, now he's coming all the time, and he comes to all the city commission meetings. That it was a different situation when he first started. Now it is a different setting. And I think that might be a really good segue into doing the strategic planning.
Also, remember that we need to come together as a commission and figure out what it is that we want to accomplish and some of the goals that we see that are valuable for our city. Because if we just go to the attorney, he doesn't know yet. And we don't know what we want to ask him, but we have sections of it in the bylaws. But when we come together, if we would maybe take that time in April to do some training at the beginning at our pre-meeting, instead of having a visitor come in, do that training, or do some strategic thinking and processing and come up with some more goals and ideas of what we would like to see, because things have changed since the pandemic. A lot of things have changed in our country and in our state. And so we have to come together and figure out what it is that this HRC is going to do. The first HRC that I was on, we did so much more than what we're doing, and we can do more. So if we would like to do that, let's vote on that at the next segment. We have about 10 minutes left in this meeting. If you all would like to vote on that, we can take that further.
Can we, for March, make a note for setup that we would start in the back?
Yes, the training can be back in the back.
Yep,
Mhm.
kind of that around the table.
Around the
Would be a
table,
little bit
yes.
helpful. We may need to come out here so I would see, we would do back.
One and then come here.
Well, no, we need a large space for one of my dumb activities that you're gonna curse me for. And then we would go into the back.
Well, why can't, we can set it up so we're out there? Or you just need that room,
We need to stand in
I'm
a
saying-
circle.
huh?
We need to stand in a circle for a little bit.
Okay,
do some
so
stuff.
why don't we just have our meeting in, well, we'll figure that out.
But then we
Yeah.
need to write and we need to
Gotcha.
jot and
Got,
Michelle, you can switch us easily. Or do you have to stop the meeting and start it again if we go to the back? How does that work? I don't actually know the technology part of this.
No, it doesn't matter. I can. switch
Okay,
it back
great.
and forth.
okay, so we can work that out. Okay. All right, the other thing that we'd like to bring up, for the next meeting as well is, don't let us forget the public notice we have to do. That's just something we have to vote on. Okay, anything else? Any
I'm
other-
not sure I got a proper description of the new business to write anything down. Can I get a little bit more information about this building a team thing?
So I would say at the May, it should be on the for March. The
March meeting, pre-meeting.
the
we will be-
pre-meeting that the team building activities and initial goal plan.
I also would amend to that amendment that if I do start at 5:30, but it can be 5:30 to 7.
I can do 6.
You can do it in an hour.
I can do it in however time we want, and an hour is,
Well, I'm just saying, we have done 5:30s before, if we need to have that extra time. If you think we do, we can do that.
I would say that 6 o'clock is more than enough time,
Okay,
as long as we jump right into the content.
well, you'll be in
Perfect.
charge of that part.
I'm perfectly comfortable jumping right into things.
Okay, any other questions or comments before we move on? Okay, the new business that we will be talking about. Is anything else? We already did the meeting that we're going to be doing the team building on. The only thing I need to add is the election or the selection of a new secretary. I sent you all a notice, email saying that I had forgot to put that in on the agenda for the 7 o'clock meeting. So we need to add that to our minute, our agenda. Okay. All right, that's being all. We will have public comment at this time.
Hi, Ashley Cavazos Frank, City of Adrian resident. I just wanted to pop in and put a bug in your ear that I've heard at a commission meeting and I've heard back from some commissioners about they're talking about public safety and policing again. And I know that's kind of in our wheelhouse. We've talked about that before and reform and suggestions. And I think that the people in this room should probably elbow your way into those conversations, because experiences that people in this room have would probably be different than experiences that some of the commissioners might have had with police officers. I know even myself as a white presenting woman, every interaction I've had with APD has been unpleasant. So those are the kind of conversations that I think that we should be having. I know we had our reform or our town hall meeting last year, and then we were going to have another, we were going to have another community conversation that kind of turned into a hot dog, kumbaya, good job, boys kind of a thing,
Yes.
which is fine. But it's not the kind of conversations that really make a community safer or make citizens feel heard. So like having it right downtown at the car show is not really conducive to having an open dialogue with the community. So maybe we can bring something like that again, now that there are some commissioners that have brought it up too, that we can reach out to them, that we have some ideas. And I know Bob and I have talked about some things, and I know that there's a plethora of backgrounds that I think should be involved in that. I know when the commissioners think community safety, their first thought is to go talk to chief. But you also need to talk to the people that are in the community, like D'Angelo, or people with corrections backgrounds like Commissioner Bernard, and people that are in the schools like Commissioner Gonzalez, and people that have school and law enforcement backgrounds like Commissioner Banky. So these are the people I want talking to chief too. So I just wanted to put that bug in your ear because those conversations are happening.
Any other public comment? Public comment on Zoom? Commissioner comments?
Thank you for setting me up from public comment. I have a report from the Brookings Institute, and it talks about the want to reduce violence, and to do that, invest in place. If you hear economic presentations frequently, it will talk about placemaking. So wanting people to live, work, and recreate in the same area. And when you think about crime and violence and some of the violence mapping that takes place in the city, when you look at the frequency of where crime occurs, you can probably make some assumptions that those hot spots are not areas where people want to recreate, where people are working, because there's not economic development in some of those areas of the town. So this is a great overview as it looks at those things. And I did have the opportunity to talk to the chief today, and we talked a little bit about this topic and some of the others, but really, I don't know, this I think goes into the bigger piece of goal planning, but then also goes into the role of the commission as well with, I think essentially the importance of, as we look at our strategic plan, what's the strategic plan for the city? How do we do a roundtable of community mental health, which is so important, homelessness, which plays into this, crime, violence, drugs, the HRC lens, education. I think that we could fill a massive table like a UN and have a summit on this as a community. And I just think that this is a good starting point to see 4 major points that are recommended to build the environment of a neighborhood strongly associated, the economic advantages with this, and then the civic infrastructure, specifically grassroots organizations, and the important role that they play as well. And I think that comes in play with the eBide group that we have, and the groups that All About Adrian is focused on as well. I think we have a good foundation in place. It's just a matter of continuing to employ some of these things, but good read if you have the time.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments?
Yes, I have a couple of comments. One, thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Commissioner Banky, for the information and for pointing out that, yeah, we need people who have experience, a diversity of experiences. And it's more about dealing with the hardships that people are struggling with than just adding more police or just adding more cameras. There's more to it, like placemaking, down blight, etc. I think you both bring that up. And I also just want to give a quick friendly reminder to the commissioners, as much as you might want to react or comment to some of the comments you hear, please be mindful to keep your microphone off so that they can continue to speak uninterrupted. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? All right, we'll save our announcements for the next meeting. We'll take a break for 5 minutes, so 5 after. will be. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We call the meeting to order. Human Relations Commission, it's open session and the public is invited. At this time, we call the meeting to order and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance and a mode of silence. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath,
Present?
Commissioner Bernard,
Present.
Commissioner Ramos,
Present.
Mr. Boone,
Present.
Commissioner Harvat is absent. Commissioner Banky,
Present.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Present.
all commission members present with the exception of Commissioner Harvat.
Commissioner is absent because of medical reasons. We would like to excuse her. I'd like to vote for that.
I move that we excuse Commissioner Harvat.
Support.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bernard,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramos,
Yes.
Commissioner Patton, Commissioner Boone,
Yes.
Commissioner Harvat, yeah. Commissioner Banky,
Present, or yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Motion to excuse Commissioner Harvat is approved by all yes vote.
All right, our minutes from January 24th. Everyone received their minutes. I'd like a motion to accept the meetings
If I can
and
make
with
one,
any necessary corrections.
if we could make one correction under public comment, if it could say my first name instead of commissioner, because I wasn't a commissioner when I was speaking.
It's habit.
Thanks.
It's habit.
I second that.
Roll call vote, please.
Yeah, wait a second. Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Bernard,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramos,
Yes.
Commissioner Boone,
Yes.
Commissioner Banky,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Minutes approve the correction in the public comment to read Robert Banky instead of Commissioner Banky is approved by an all yes vote.
All right, any additions to the agenda? We have one that we'd like to add to the agenda, and that would be the secretary position and a vote for secretary if we can get one tonight. I'd like to hear a motion, please. So
I'll motion to add a secretary discussion to the agenda, though I admit I do not have high hopes, but I do motion to add it. Support.
roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bernard,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramos,
Yes.
Commissioner Boone,
Yes.
Commissioner Banky,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Motion to add the secretary position to new business is approved by an all yes vote to the agenda.
Thank you. Approval of the regular meeting agenda. Motion, roll call vote, please.
I motion to approve the agenda with the noted additions.
Yes.
I second that.
Roll call.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Bernard,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramos,
Yes.
Commissioner Boone,
Yes.
Commissioner Banky,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion to approve. The agenda is approved by an all yes vote with the additions added.
Treasurer's report. Commissioner Boone.
No changes. Is that sufficient?
Say it louder. So, all
No changes to treasury report.
right, I need approval of no corrections, no additions to that. To the treasurer's report. I need a motion to approve.
I approve the financial report.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Bernard,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramos,
Yes.
Commissioner Boone,
Yes.
Commissioner Banky.
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes,
treasurer's report approved by an all yes vote.
And because it was voted on last time, the report was submitted to the city. Old business, the HRC yearly schedule approval, which is public notice. We gave that out last time, but we forgot to vote. We need a vote, a motion and a vote to approve the public notice. If you look that we eliminated our meeting for December 2023. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Bernard,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramos,
Yes.
Commissioner Boone,
Yes.
Commissioner Banky,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
yes,
Thank you. All
Public notice approved by an all yes vote.
right, the bylaws update.
All right, we've discussed this in our previous meeting. Hello, I'm Joaquin, the vice chair and the chair of the committee. We, of course, went through a few things here. And I am asking the commission to vote to approve bylaws as presented with the addition of the treasurer will submit the yearly budget and taking out the clarifying language in vice chair as we had discussed. I will make that available to Robin to make it a little bit easier on her. And I am asking for a motion to approve these bylaws to send them to the city to get their input and thusly either have an approval fully approved or have them sent back and a little bit more discussion.
Before I accept that discussion on the fact that we were talking about submitting it to the city attorney before we vote on it? Or you want to pass it and then submit it to the city attorney instead of the city administrator?
I'm asking for us to pass it and pass it along to, I would assume, the city administrator and the attorney. But I'm open to input from the mayor or commissioners that would know that, but I assume it would be sent to both. But I'm asking us to approve what I have here with the couple of corrections mentioned so that it can be given to the city.
If it's coming to the city commission, if we were to vote tonight to send it to the city commission, it's something that will go through the city administrator and the city attorney. And that is the first thing that the city commission will ask anyways. Has the city attorney looked at it? Are there any corrections? So then if it were to come back from the city commission with corrections, it's a pretty sure thing that it's probably because it's something that our city attorney was wanting to make the corrections, probably more than anything, because that we really, go to our city attorney for advice on the city commission. So I think you can vote to send it to them for review because that's automatically going to put it to the city attorney and the city administrator as well.
Okay, but the couple of questions that we had about whether or not it should even be in our bylaws,
Yeah.
that was my questions.
I would be comfortable in moving and having our draft go to the city administrator and city attorney for review so that they can mark it up and give it back to us. And then we have the final, another approval before it goes to the commission and then is all redlined and out of date.
And you're making a motion with that, is it?
Sure.
I will second that.
Did you get that, Rob?
All right,
The short version to
Okay,
send to the
so-
city administrator and city attorney for review.
okay, we're waiting for the wording to be corrected so that what we're hearing is that we're going to submit it to the city attorney and the administration in order for them to review it, give clarity on some of the questions that we had, and then send it back to us. Is that your motion? And did I hear a second on that motion?
I seconded it.
Okay. Secretary will read it as much as she can, or I've cleared up really pretty much. Okay. Roll call vote on that, please, to
Mayor
submit
Beat.
it.
Yes.
Commissioner Bernard.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramos.
Yes.
Commissioner Boone.
Yes.
Commissioner Banky.
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion to submit to the city of Adrian, to the city administrator and the city attorney for their review, the bylaws to be returned to their Human Relations Commission upon their review is approved by an all yes vote.
Thank you. All right, is there anything else you'd like to share about the bylaws, Commissioner?
I think I have shared plenty in the last 3 meetings. I'm sure Commissioner Gonzalez would prefer that I didn't go over it all again. And I'm sure at least a couple more commissioners up there would prefer I did not go through it all again. But I assure you, the couple of changes that we spoke are the ones adjusted, and all the others are, as you've seen, the last 2 months. Actually, 3 months, because we didn't have a December meeting.
Thank you.
So I will save you that.
Thank you, sir. I had Secretary Pro Tem on here, which should have been the secretary position. Because we will bring that up later. So we will, if you will allow me to just continue to table that. All right. The next thing is a town hall meeting. The next town hall meeting we were suggesting to be done is for the home ownership. Did we get a chance to talk to the bank that did the presentation? Is Premier Bank now? Are we in favor of having that in April or May, a town hall meeting for home ownership?
I'm concerned that they would not be able to do it in that sufficient time. I have not started any discussions with them. I did not know that we were going to be doing that yet. I, of course, am in favor with it, considering it's what got me housed. But there hasn't been any discussion there. I think it'll be better for, say, since I've done it the last couple of times, to go to Fran and ask her, hey, what month works best for you within the next few months? I think that would be a much better way to go about it if we're going to do a home ownership seminar again.
Can you at least present to her that we have available April and May?
I will mention to her that we have April, May, and the next following month in case that's what works better.
Well, we have something else in May, in June, that we're focusing on in June. Remember, we were trying to do the bridging the divide in June is the police. And also we have the other things that we were going to connect with during the June month. So
And
if they cannot do it, then we can work with them.
yes,
Okay,
if I'm the one that is being pushed to do it, then yes, I can do it because I've done it before, and I would be happy to talk to her. She's very pleasant, and I would love to have her come and present to us again because it was great information. But since discussions haven't talked, I can't pin down a month at this time, though I will ask her nearest availability.
thank you. Is there any other suggestions for town hall meetings other than bridging the divide? And we don't have to have it in June, but we could work it into other month. But the sooner the better before the summer gets here. I was thinking it would be good to do something like that. So what do you all think?
As long as Commissioner Ramos is also doing that for those months, could we also see about bridging the divide, of the gap? Also maybe to fill those months, if, let's
If
say,
they- if
let's
she
say
can't
June is
do it.
only possible for her and we can do May,
Yeah.
I say let's keep that open and ask
Mhm.
both groups. I just like the idea of doing, bridging the gap earlier in the spring, summer, just so that way with more people out, more exposure, I think it's a good way of starting, you know,
Giving
that
them
time
more
of
than
year.
Option, one option.
And I think just in light of recent events as well within our city, that I just think that I don't want to rush it, but I do. I think before the summer months really hit and more people are out, I agree with Commissioner Gonzalez. It's exactly where I was thinking as well. So I think if it doesn't work, then that goes there so that we can, I think it's okay to do that sooner if that's a possibility.
Well, since we have not solidified anything with housing, do you want to just see what time she has after we do the bridging the divide? Because I think bridging the divide is probably one of the better ones to do the sooner. So are we thinking April, May, and June, any of those months to do the bridging the divide?
I also want to note that generally from Brand's experiences, there's a lot more home buying in summer and spring, so it would be better to do it towards the beginning of summer, the end of spring, if that works with her availability. Again, that's why I say as soon as availability, and I will be opening talks with her as soon as I'm able.
So what do you all think about the bridging divide? I'll talk to the chief of police and see what we can put together. Are you all thinking when we do the town hall for bridging the divide, you want to include the sheriff as well? County? The first one we did have both.
I don't know how to do this because we have to be, it has to be an open, like public meeting
Open forum.
and an open forum. But honestly, I've heard this many times and I completely understand. I think it would be better if there was a way to do it outside where people aren't having to come into this building. They feel intimidated. They don't want to come in here. I've heard that before. That's not going to be the first time I've not, or any building that's like a city building. It's just, there's certain people that feel more intimidated and they don't want to have those discussions. And even if it's not outside, maybe at a more neutral location, whether that be Piotr Center, I don't know. Just really trying to think outside the box here a little bit and just making that comfort level so that those conversations that might be, those questions and those conversations might get, be a little tough. And the comfort level, I just know many people do not feel comfortable coming into city chambers, and it's very, it just feels too formal. It feels very uncomfortable for many. And I just want to make sure that we are being cognizant of that and really making this an area that, an event that a town hall that will really reach everyone and bring that comfort level.
The suggestion we've had the bridging the divide at the Dominican Weber Center. We've also had it at the Armory. The
I
NAACP held it at the Armory as well,
could also suggest the community room of the library.
the library.
That was my suggestion, either, the community room in the library or one of our larger parks.
Okay, so we can hold our town hall at either of those places, so.
Now, this may seem odd to do, but could we also look at maybe having that adjacent to or right? Because everybody's gonna be down here during the first Friday. I mean, it would make it for maybe a little bit later hours or a little bit earlier, but I mean, if we can get more people here, maybe more people will take a turn into whichever, the library, here, wherever we choose to. I just I like to try to get people when they're already here, is all I'm saying.
The only problem with the busyness of First Friday is the police being able to control the environment. And they will be out and about, they won't be able to participate the same if we did it during that time. So you got to think about location and control. So it would need to be maybe in a larger place than we have here, but certainly not. We won't be able to do it then because they will be busy trying to man everything. Okay. So we have the library, we have the Weber Center possibly, and the Armory. So those are places that they have allowed us to use in the past.
And if it's an issue, with our, like with the city's technology, maybe this is something we ask somebody to come in, like a Drake Lally or somebody that, come to the library and, make it accessible, like we put out the Zoom link or whatever. I don't know, Michelle, like what, our capability would be there. That's why I'm saying that. I don't know. I'm just, to make sure that we are, making sure that it is open and that people can, participate and be a part of that. I do know, though, that we don't have to offer Zoom. That is another thing, but I think it's good to have it recorded. I really think that it's good that people can go and watch it and be like, oh, this is what's happening. And this, and just that communication level is heightened. We've noticed it at the city commission level that more people are aware of what is going on at commission meetings than ever before. And it's not because they're coming to meetings. It's because so many are coming on Zoom or they're watching it later, which is something that didn't used to exist before COVID. So we've really found that to be very instrumental, especially for people that can't attend because they work or, whatever their job may be, because no matter when you do it, there's always going to be some that, might really want to come that have to work during that time. So I still think it's very crucial, even though we don't have to do it. But Michelle, I didn't really know what we could do, or if that's something like we ask, we reach out and see if somebody'd be willing to do that for us. I don't know. I'm very not technologically
We
inclined.
can do it with a camera and a laptop and
Yeah,
all
we
that. The
can.
issue is going to be the sound. I mean, that's
Yeah, we
why
can do it.
it's advantageous to do it here, simply because we have microphones and we have it set up with cameras and recording. We've done it before with just, a webcam and stuff like that, but it's not great. People aren't going to probably be able to hear. You could pay someone like Drake to come in and do that. It's going to be expensive. And he's going to have a hard time setting up sound. Again, is going to be the issue. So
Can I say that we probably need to recommend that we don't do Zoom with this particular meeting for several reasons. One is you want a controlled environment for this kind of conversation. And you also have to think about bombings on the Zoom, other things that could happen, people saying things that you can't control that conversation and people taping it. I think that was one of the concerns that our chief was having with doing another bridging the divide so close to the one we did, why he wanted to do the hot dog giveaway. So let's talk to him and see what he says in terms of that. And do we still want to include the chief and the county? The city and the county, please.
I would lean towards just the city, but
That's fine.
my gut.
I mean, is that the consensus? Okay. All right. So we will do that. What I would ask Commissioner Binky, if you would be willing to check the library first for us and see that if that's available.
Do we have a date?
We don't have a date until I talk to the chief
Okay.
and see what his time is, since it's just going to be his people.
Yeah, if
Okay.
you let me know
And I will
some-
let you
some
know.
dates that
Yes.
he comes up with, I'll confirm it with the library. And I do think
Okay.
out of all those choices, the library has the best. It has technology that they can project PowerPoint. It does have movable tables, so we don't have the podium here between us. That would promote
Be
conversation.
effective, okay. And so what we will do is reach out to the library first. And if that's not available or we can't get it, then we can move into maybe some other space, okay? So, and the month that we do it, we'll wait until we find out what is best for him, okay? Any other comments on the town hall meetings? So far, we have the housing and
So going back to the makeup of that town hall meeting with the police. So much of that, I guess it depends how big of a conversation do we want to have? Because my conversation with the chief today, as we were going through that Brookings Institute article, relates to mental health. And that, of course, comes into play with our local healthcare providers and CMH. And then that comes into play with the mental health crises that our homeless shelters have and bigger issues there. So I guess as we have that conversation, do we want to unwrap that part of the onion?
well, the way I see us doing it, we did do that with him before. We did have other groups that were present. They may be able to be present and overhear the conversations that we're having and the possibility of them weighing in on what they could connect with. He actually has people that reach out to mental health while they're dealing with mental challenged individuals in the city now. So he could tell us best what would fit with him doing his presentation. I wouldn't want to box him in until I know that he's in agreement to that. Okay, so if he's going to bring in, because there's going to be a lot of questions that people have now, and they want to know what he's doing, and he's willing to talk about it because he's been talking on the radio and he's been reaching out, and he does that anyway. So let's if we sit down with him and get some guidelines as to how he wants to do it, and if he's willing to do it.
Because I think he'll do a great job in terms of
Yes.
the presenting. And I think it really becomes are we presenting the issue or are we trying to solve the problem? Or
At least attempt to solve the issue.
right. So I mean, if we're going to try and solve, then that becomes a much more complicated meeting to who we're inviting and how we go about addressing those things, because, you know, recently in Monroe, their shelter shut down because of what they termed, they were running a mental ward and they weren't staffed for it, sadly. So how, you know, who else do we make sure we have at the table? That would be real critical with invites as we move forward on that, and to work with him closely.
So some things that we have done in the past, when we're dealing with the police, is to also have a group of people that will talk after his presentation. And then we could have mental health to see how they would connect with what he's doing or what we would like to see happen. So you can have other agencies present. And I would be willing to invite any and everyone that we need to help with the homeless shelter. We've had the health department send out requests even this year this weekend, just for people to be able to have shelter during the daytime. So some of the churches, they were asking the churches to open up, and we had a few churches that did actually open up their doors. So it was daytime sheltering and feeding them and giving them an opportunity to be indoors. And because a lot of people lost their homes, they were in the hotels and things. So we have the opportunity to put it together the way we want to. And I still, like I said, I'd like to speak to the chief first to see what areas that he is not only working with and groups that he's working with, but what areas that he would like to see present to assist us in getting things done. So yes, so I'll make a contact. If you get a chance to talk to him, tell him I'm coming.
Okay.
And whoever you know, we can, however we can put it together, then we can finalize it as soon as possible by the next time. And maybe what we need is a subcommittee, or I keep using that word, subcommittee, committee to work with him to put everything together and then present it to the group by the next meeting. Okay,
I would like to make a quick note about that is I agree with Benke and our chair that we do want a more thorough conversation, but I think we also need to keep in mind the amount of time because there was a particular town hall where we had, I think it was 6 organizations and one of them didn't show up. But even with the 5, by the end of it, we didn't even have real questions because we're all just left thinking about all the things. So I think we should have a thorough conversation, but I think we should also keep in mind how much time we have and how much we're asking from that. So perhaps we do something with the chief and 1 or 2 things and then ask them to come back and switch out a couple of people.
okay, so we're looking.
The other piece becomes a quote unquote, a facilitated discussion as well.
Exactly.
So I think that becomes the important piece of how to manipulate and stay on track and stay on the agenda.
Yeah, but when the resources are in the room, they're hearing what we're hearing, then we can hold them accountable for the things that we need them to do as a group. But it's not that they're presenting. What we did before, they were presenters. All those groups were presenters. We're not talking about them being the presenters. We're talking about being the support for the police and the city and for what we're trying to accomplish. What we're trying to accomplish is get the information, help him police these areas or the areas that he doesn't know what's happening in the community or his people are not doing in the community, that we hold, not only hold him accountable, but hold us accountable for actually making sure that we're making sure that the mentally ill are covered and the homeless are covered, the people that are challenged are covered some kind of way. We got to do better than what we're doing. And the only way to do that is to get the information and have the people present. That doesn't mean that they're going to all speak just because they're present. Okay? All right. Okay. So
And that's what I was gonna just say, from doing a few of these, it really, if it can be more discussion based as opposed to presentations, like it's been a little bit more presentation heavy and it hasn't been those discussions, those hard conversations. But I think that's what needs to happen. And we need to, be the ones there as the HRC, for helping facilitate that discussion, as Commissioner Binky said.
all right. Anyone else on that conversation?
And I guess instead of calling it, what's it called?
Bridging the divide.
But town hall meeting, maybe it's a round table discussion.
Well, Bridging the Divide is just the title of it. However we do, the subtitle could be roundtable.
Right, yeah, I mean,
That's-
because round table, I think of that as a conversation.
Gotcha.
Not this.
Gotcha, Gotcha.
Type of thing.
gotcha. Okay. All right, also, new business, our secretary position is the first thing that we'd like to talk about. Our secretary was unable to continue being part of our commission. And our secretary pro tem was no longer on the position, so it left us with a void. And we would like to thank Robin Collins for her filling in for us for the last few months. We really appreciate you so much. And so at this time, I'd like to ask, is there anyone that is willing to, I'm gonna volunteer you, but is willing to take on the secretary position for this commission? And the officers that are in office in positions now cannot fill that position. They can help us if we don't get somebody until we get someone, but you can't hold the position, 2 positions. So there's only 3 of you that don't hold an office. We can make it as easy as possible for you. Robin can share with you maybe and train you. Would you? No volunteers. Okay. Yeah. We'll keep going then, as we are.
Do we need a motion to table that?
No, you don't need a motion. This was discussion about the secretary position. We need to have a secretary, so think about it by the next meeting, and we can put it on the agenda again. Okay. At this time, I'd like to go to any other new business anyone has? Any discussions? If not, I'll open it for public comment in-house. You have 5 minutes. If you have any discussion or comments that you'd like to make at this time, just step up to the podium. Hearing no comments in the chamber, do we have any on public on Zoom? Hearing no discussion there, we go to announcements. Commissioner comments. I'm sorry. Commissioner comments?
I would just like to recognize, and I'm going to slaughter, and I'm going to say it wrong. I know I am because I can't remember the exact title, but I just want to point out that one of our commissioners on the HRC led the charge for just a brilliant idea and just an amazing idea, thought, and put it all together, and please put the hard work in. Thank you, Commissioner Banky, for putting together the diversity. Yep. See, I'm going to need your help because I don't remember what you called it, but through the Lenawee Community Foundation, they are offering a, he was the backbone of all of getting that going. And they have put together so that we can have cultural diverse events and just and inclusive events downtown that are not hindering those marginalized communities from having those events downtown with the new fees. Could you speak to that though, please?
I
Thank you.
think the name is
Well, good. I feel better that I don't remember it.
the Adrian Diversity Parade and Street Fair Fund. And the thought behind that was that with the recent increase in fees associated with that this fund would step in and pay the fees for Juneteenth, for Cinco de Mayo, for Pride, for parades and street fairs, so that those groups could focus on organizing and planning on the many other fronts that they have. We did get some donations from Meyer, Midwest Energy and Communications, and then private donors. So there's a 3-to-1 match that's out there. So for every dollar donated for the first $1,500 raised, there'll be $3. So a $25 donation would have $100 impact. $250 donation would have a $1,000 impact. And it was really, really great because the night that I made the announcement, I got a call from as far as New York with a donation from Tobin, who's connected with the Croswell and an advocate for LGBTQAI plus programming. So he and his partner made a donation along with many others. I think we're, from what I know, I need to get with the Community Foundation. But we've surpassed $900 raised. So we're well on our way.
900.
And thank you. That, I know this is the, that conversation started here and Commissioner Benke took that initiative and ran with it. We were already expressing concerns way back when it first came out and that discussion began here and just what you did, Commissioner Benke, with thinking outside the box and thinking how to help those groups that may not have those resources. I commend you and thank you very much for that.
Okay, can you name the groups that you are going to be funding?
So it is a diversity and street fair fund. The fund itself set up at the Lenawee Community Foundation, specifically in the language of the fund, has Juneteenth, has Cinco de Mayo, and Pride in there. If there's other groups, if they were to come forward that were associated with celebrating a diversity within the community, they could then apply as well.
Okay,
But those are the three that were.
so if you would get us all the information, we can put it on hopefully the city website.
Okay.
And that we can pass that information on for those that want to make donations. We can still get that done. That is excellent. Anyone else have announcements?
Announcement wise, coming up Thursday. So this Thursday, if anyone wants to be an honorary Rotarian, you can help out. We are going to meet at the Lenawee Community Foundation. Looking for volunteers. We're going to pick up branches and limbs that fell around the Community Foundation. And then we're going to move to Comstock Park and we're going to pick up branches around Comstock Park. And then we're going to move to Monument Park after that and pick up branches and take them to the curb. The hope here is that we can have some volunteers do that. And our city guys can continue to use the trucks and do the heavy work and some of the grunt work of pulling limbs can be done by volunteers so they can continue to focus on the great work they've been doing. That's going to be at 3 o'clock Thursday at the Community Foundation and then Comstock Park and then Monument Park.
So you start at 3 o'clock and you will start at the Lenawee Foundation.
So if I don't get out of school till 3:30, but if one tried to find you, just go looking at those areas and
Yep.
we'll find you.
I would say we will be done at the Community Foundation pretty quickly.
Okay, so I'll go to Comstock Park first. Okay,
If-
thanks.
If people want more information, do you have a number that you give out?
Yeah, so area code 248-730-7650. They can text or call.
248-730-7650,
Yes,
correct? And it's to you.
yes,
What time? That again?
3 o'clock.
Okay,
Trying to beat the rain and everything else that's going.
okay, great. Anyone else have announcements?
Yes, I have a couple quick announcements. I just want to remind everyone that the city commission meeting is on the 6th and on the 20th of this month, in case you want to make it to any of those. And A3 second Friday is the 10th. That will be at the library. And it'd be great to see some of y'all there. And that concludes my announcements, though I do hear that the celebration for Black History Month was moved to the 12th. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
And can you go, I know you know the date, I think it's Friday, March 24th. Is that when they moved the homeless vigil? That was canceled this past weekend?
I don't think the date was solidified with that. I think we were aiming for the 24th or 17th. I would have to double check.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure if that had a date yet. I knew that they were looking at some, and since that wasn't able to happen with the ice storm.
Yeah, If I remember correctly, we are leaning towards the 24th, but it's not confirmed yet.
One quick announcement, City of Refuge Ministries Meal Assistance Program, fresh food distribution, a lot of words. Sorry. The City of Refuge Ministries Meal Assistance Program of Lenawee Counties. Fresh food distribution is this Thursday at St. Mary's parking lot from 12 to 2 or while supplies last. So we always push people to get there early. Because typically we pass out 150 boxes of fresh produce and we're usually out in 28 minutes.
And it's really needed this time because a lot of people lost their food from the fact that we had that frozen ice storm. And a lot of people had to go to the hotels and had flooding in their basements. A lot of things happened. So we are thankful for any amount of food that comes this direction. So we had to stop our food from coming just in time before the storm came because we would have had no place to put the food because power was out. So we're thankful for that. Okay, any other announcements? I'd just like to talk about a little bit before we go. I was part of a training on Friday. We moved from the library to the high school. And I'd like Mr. Binky, if you tell him exactly who our speaker was, and I do have his name.
We had a few speakers, so
Yes,
we had.
tell him the name of it, what it was.
So the training was, so you want to run for city commission, and it was a joint effort by the Lenawee chapter of the NAACP, the M Society, LEAD, and then Southeast Michigan's Migrant Resource Council.
And the NAACP, right? Mhm.
Yeah, I said them
Yeah.
first.
Okay.
And what the focus there was having Robert Pena come. He's a county commissioner in Ingham County and just talked about the training that he had from his own experience of running some of the pitfalls of knocking on a door and getting voters lists and registrations and being involved, how to have those conversations, what your platform is, how to organize, how to fill out that paperwork. We had 30 individuals that were there throughout the day. So it was great. And really, it was, I think, testimony to all four of the groups that were present, because if either one of those individual groups had their people turn out, there would have been less than 10. But there was good energy and power there in numbers. In terms of the learning, the conversation was great with being kicked off by County Chair Commissioner Van Doren, and then we had the wrap up kind of a Q&A discussion with Commissioner Gauss and Commissioner Helt with just how they've approached the fact that when they ran for office and things that they were experiencing as well. So a lot of people that were advocates that weren't necessarily going to throw their hat in to run, but they wanted to see how they could be the next chairperson to support campaign chair, I guess you could say, for a potential candidate, how they could advocate. We were pushing the empty spots that we have on this committee to fill. So hopefully those applications start rolling in as well. And I think there was some good energy there by the end of the training.
It was very successful and very well supported. And we like to say that these are valuable things for people to learn and to know. And some of them were said, I'm ready to run for office too. So that was a good thing. All right, anything else we have? If not, open for dismissal.
I motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Thank you.